All right, here we are, another episode of Steve Lag's Unfiltered. I'm super excited about this particular episode because I have a guest that took a life where he was really not unhappy, maybe even a little depressed, and he had the resilience to change his life, transform into an entrepreneur, launch a super successful business, not only be successful for him and his family, but find a way to drive impact and give back to thousands of people. So stay tuned.
Prepare to be amazed. And now, introducing your host, Steve Lags.
All right, welcome to another episode of Steve Lag's Unfiltered. Today, I have a really special guest. This is a gentleman I've been following here for a little bit. He's really a truly impactful individual, successful entrepreneur. I'm bringing you Carlton Washington. He's one of the co-founders of Forever Young. Hey, what's up, Carlton? How you doing today?
Good. Thank you, man.
Really appreciate you coming in today.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
So I've been following you. You have a lot of success with this organization, Forever Young. Yep. And I see that you also, you're really impactful. You're dedicating a lot of your extra time to different organizations here. Tell me a little bit about Forever Young and how you got started there.
So first, I appreciate you having me here. Forever Young really came out of a desperation, I tell people.
Yeah.
And I moved here reluctantly in 2014.
From where?
From Atlanta, Georgia. Mm-hmm. I was in Atlanta. I was comfortable at the time. I had a free and clear home, and I really never saw myself leaving. And my wife came to me, who's always been very supportive, and she was like, "Hey, look, I want to move up in my career, and there's a position open in South Florida, which we both went to high school down here. That's where we met." Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't want to go back to that place. You know, just to be honest, I actually love South Florida, which is why I didn't want to come back to South Florida, because the lifestyle as an adult, I felt like as a father, I was like, I don't want to be back down there. This is a party town.
Okay.
You know, and so I basically gave her an ultimatum. I was like, look, if you go and ask them for all these things, then we'll go back to South Florida, just to be supportive. But I was like, they're not going to do it. So whatever. And she comes home and then she's like, yeah, well, they said yes to everything and some. And so I was like, when do you have to be there? She's like, 30 days. So she picked up and moved down here. And I had a very difficult time getting a job down here, even though I was highly, highly qualified, overqualified. Nobody would hire me down here.
What were you doing in Atlanta?
I was working for a private equity company at the time.
Okay.
I had come out of banking. I was at a private equity company, Colony Capital. I was helping to build a large REIT in the state of Georgia. And that's what I was doing. I was comfortable.
So your corporate job.
Yeah, corporate, but I had a lot of autonomy. And so it was like perfect for me.
Okay.
And so I couldn't get a job down here to save my life. I was going on interview. They wouldn't hire me down here. And so I started freaking out about 6.5 months in, 7 months in. I was like, my son is down here. My wife is down here. I'm all alone in this house. And so I took a job, big step back, to come down here in a bank at SunTrust Bank. And I came here, and then I happened to be under the leadership of someone who was a horrible leader and extremely micromanaging. And
tell me, like, what horrible leader? Like, besides micromanaging, what does make somebody a horrible leader?
So extreme micromanagement, not relatable, not actually someone who's capable of doing the role. So they're asking you to do things that they're not capable of doing themselves. Okay. And kind of leading by fear.
Right.
And literally coming and working over your shoulder.
Right.
To the point that I was so shooken up by it that I had to ask, like, my staff members that work for me, like, do you guys have a Xanax or something? Because everything in my body was like shaking and rattling. It was unnerving to me. And I was waking up on the side of the bed like a commercial for depression medication. And there were sometimes I'd have tears in my eyes, and I'd wake up in my boxers and I'd just sit there on the side of my bed, and I was like, I can't believe this is my life.
Right.
And I didn't want to complain too much, but I was really sad, man, really sad. And, come home from work, drink on the weekends and go back. And so over that time, I started meeting people in Boca Raton that had different roles in this industry that I'm in now. I had a guy that opened up a compounding pharmacy across from me. He was really cool. He used to buy me lunch all the time. I had doctors coming in. I had estheticians coming in. I had different roles from this business. And so one day I asked the guy, like, how did you start your compounding business? He's like, well, I used to be in wellness and I sold my wellness business to get into this. And I was like, well, I go to a wellness business. I'm on testosterone.
Right.
Testosterone changed my life, in my late 20s. And I was like, really? He was like, yeah, I sold my hormone business to build my compound pharmacy. I was like, whoa, well, tell me about that. And so we would just talk all the time. And then I would start asking. I was so checked out at work that all my my clients that were coming in, I just took the time. I was just interviewing them, and they thought it was this great customer service. But I just wanted to know, what do you do? Yeah. And so I came home one day and I told my wife, I was like, look, I'm either going to go dance at Mango's in Miami because I was like working out at the time. I was bored and working out all the time, and I'm just going to go dance down there, be a bartender or dance like for fun. If anybody's ever been to Mango's, like it's guys down there, that are buff just dancing on the bar top. Or I'm going to go like set up a jet ski rental spot on the beach or something like that. But anything but this, right? I don't care. And as we were having that conversation, I had more conversations with these people, and I was like, you know what? That would be really low for me to do those other things. That's not really what I work so hard for. You got more
potential than that.
I'm going to try to do something in testosterone. Like I'm a patient of a place in Atlanta that does just testosterone. I just want to do that. Right. And that was the only focus. Okay. And so this guy that I was talking to with the compound pharmacy, he's like, well, if you want to do that, he was like, you need to know at least 50 people. He's like, if you don't know 50 people, I wouldn't do that business. And I was like, damn.
50 customers?
Yeah, 50. Right. I didn't know 50 people down here. I just moved here.
Right.
And I was like, damn, well, I don't know 50 people. And so I was so bored down here. And then I'd been, at first when I came down, I was like partying and stuff. I stopped that. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get in the best shape of my life. I'm going to do a bodybuilding competition. Great. And so people in the gym referred me to this guy. I was like, who's the best guy to talk to about bodybuilding, getting in the best shape of my life? And they were like, this guy right here. And it was my business partner, Dennis. So I was like, well, I want to sign up for your program. And I was getting in the best shape of my life. And so on the last day that I had it at work, it was a Saturday. I'm working in a bank on a Saturday in a tie. Everyone in South Florida is at the beach or partying or whatever. I called him up and I was like, look, man, can we talk real quick? He was like, we're not friends or anything. I'm a client. Yeah. He's like, I'm with my son. What's going on? I was like, I just need to meet you. And I want to ask you something. He's like, what is it about? I was like, I'll tell you when I get there. He was like, well, I got my son with me. I was like, okay, we'll bring him. I was like, meet me at the Starbucks. And so we met at the Starbucks. I was like, I want to do this wellness business. And this is what I've been working on. What do you think about this? And he was like, okay. Just like that. He was like, okay.
That's awesome.
Let's do it.
But so you see how it was who you got yourself around, and you started getting information and learning from all different individuals.
Desperation. I was so desperate that I wanted to know everything. Please tell me how you do this. What is that? What is it? I didn't even know what an esthetician was. Right. I didn't know what any of these things were. I didn't know what a compound pharmacy was. I didn't know anything. And so it was desperate. So it was education out of desperation because I wanted to know so bad. And I knew that I was dead ass serious. And if I was going to be serious, I have to take it seriously. So
Forever Young starts in 2014.
I moved here in 2014. We started, my partner and I met in that spring, I think in March. By May, we were incorporated and in site selection. Right. And by August 4th, we opened our business here in Boca Raton.
That's the first location.
Yes.
How many locations do you have today?
We have 3 corporate locations here. We have 35 stores open nationwide, and we have 118 in some stage of development, and we open 2.5 a month.
How about that?
And I just wanted a paycheck in somewhere where I could be comfortable. I didn't ever imagine that. I just wanted to work in a place that I was so off-put by the way I was treated that I only really just wanted to earn enough money to live and to create an environment where people didn't feel like that. Right. Where you could I thought that you could actually have a business where you actually treated people with respect and mutually, and that we could be successful that way. And that was the mission for me personally, was just to do something that wasn't hurting people and to actually make people feel like they were valued,
That's awesome. How do you get that much success that fast though once you get going? Like what?
Relentless. I mean, people say this, you hear the same things a lot of time from similar people and similar stories, but it was relentless obsession, like psychopathic, relentless. I don't see anything but this. Other than my kids and my family, I don't care. I didn't care about anything else at all.
Right.
And I rarely do today. Other than I see one thing, I do one thing. That's the focus, and it's relentless in terms of that.
So you get obsessed with a goal or a mission, like
one thing,
right?
Whatever the one thing is,
and stay focused. Like keep the main thing the main thing.
No matter what's happening,
right?
The whole world could be burning. Whatever crisis, dog dies, family member dies, anything happen, you're sick, you break, whatever. Nothing matters. The one goal still has to go on. We can compartmentalize these things as we're going,
right?
But never taking eye off that focus. Ever.
So stay on track.
Always.
Yeah.
And it's one thing though. People say stay on track, and also people say the same thing all the time. Never give up.
Right.
But they're not telling. If you look at every successful person who's ever been interviewed, like highly successful people, highly. They always say the same thing. They say, I never give up, but they never really tell people what does that mean. To tell people to not give up is very easy.
Right.
Don't give up.
Simple. Too more complicated.
That's not what they're saying. What they're saying is don't give up after tragedy strikes, your loved one dies, your house burns down, then you go bankrupt, then you go bankrupt again, then something else bad happens, then you crash your car, then you get sick, and then you don't give up.
Right.
That's what they mean. They don't mean don't give up. Anybody can just not give up. It's not giving up when you're supposed to give up. And that's what people need to understand. Like if you're not willing to do that, I've rarely seen anybody get past, the initial stages of what they're looking to do.
Right. Because life happens.
Yes.
Shit's going to happen. And you don't want to use that as something to make sense of why it's the okay time to give up.
Right.
So,
and accepting that, I found, was the first step. It wasn't until I learned that life is not fair and that it's all my fault that I started to be able to take those steps.
Tell me about that, because I can relate to that. It's all my fault. So
everything's your fault, dude. And even if it's not, it's your fault. And it's a way of making your life much easier for yourself, because sometimes we're always looking for people to blame, and we're looking for a government to blame, or a person or a coworker or a situation to blame. It doesn't, and the universe doesn't care about that, right? Life is going to go on. People don't realize that when you die, there's a mourning period, and you will be forgotten within weeks, if not sooner for some, later for others. So everything's continuing to go on, and it's not until you realize that you have to rely on yourself and you have to figure it out, and that when you do that stupid thing, you get a DUI, or you get in a fight, or you cuss somebody out, or what, something that you shouldn't have done. We got to go back to that and be like, man, you know what? That was my fault. It wasn't because my friend gave me the extra shot before I left the club. It was I took the shot, and you knew you shouldn't have done that, and now we're in this situation. And so that is what had allowed me, and I think other people, when you get to that point, then you can move forward without being delayed in, oh my God, well, if this person hadn't done this to me, then I would be successful,
Right. So it's not being a victim. You're not playing a victim mindset. And it's amazing, because we bring people on here that are super successful, and it's a common theme about never playing the role of the victim. It happens. It doesn't happen to you. It happens because of you.
Right.
And why do you think so many people struggle with that mindset? What's conditioned them to not be able to accept that mindset?
One, it's two different things. One, I don't think society wants you to realize that, right?
And why is that?
Because it allows, once masses of people learn that they have the ability and the power to actually make a difference and do something, it short circuits the system.
Yes.
So people allow things to happen. Like right now, think about all the crises that are going on all in this country, around the world, economically, inflation. Think about it. Right now, people consider me to be successful. In my opinion, I'm at the lower end of that. And, I'm able to take care of myself, but I'm tight financially right now. Like I go to the grocery store. This is not 8% or 3%. This is 30, 40% increases in people's expenses in daily living. No one says a word. No one says anything. You could say something.
Right.
You could say something. And if you and a bunch of people said something, it'd probably be a problem, right? So we don't want people to realize that if maybe they group together, maybe there could be something that would be done about this, right? And so it's empowering for people, first of all. So some people don't want you to know that.
Yes.
And then second of all, if you remove them, it's also that it's much, much easier to sedate yourself and to blame other people for everything. And so nothing's ever your fault. And then you can kind of just like hide your head and go through life that way. And you never, it's self-soothing, I would assume. Mm-hmm. And then you also get the most cheerleaders that way. So when you have that outlook, everybody else is like, yeah, well, come over here because I have that story too. My best friend, sold me out too. My boss screwed me too. My wife left me too. Like, let's have a party.
Party.
Right?
Yeah.
And those are the masses, right? That's why you're using the word success or the word attractive or the word beautiful. All these are really just saying something that's rare or uncommon, right?
Right.
It's something that's not common, and everybody likes to be in a pack, right? And so when you take and adopt this mindset, the first step is you're going to be really alone. And if you're lucky, maybe we get to meet people that are like-minded along the way, but very lonely, to be like that.
So do you protect your environment, who you surround yourself with? Are you like reading people and like, hey, is this someone I want to let into my circle? Because, you got to protect that mindset because you don't want people hit your subconscious. Do you think this through, or how does that work for you?
It's so funny that you brought that up. It's especially in this space right here. This is this internet space, this influencer space, this podcast space. I've had to talk to my wife about this recently. I've been very disappointed in this space because I found that many people hiding behind these cameras are people that have never created anything. Right. And they are really good at showing people things, shiny things, to make it look like there's something that they're not. But behind the curtain, they're like the equivalent of sleeping on a mattress in a studio apartment. Right. That's what most of these people are. I agree. And so I've been coming out of my space a little bit into different spaces, and I've been shocked at how I've been treated and about how inconsistent and how much of a lack of accountability, the lack of professionalism, all of these things, all this stuff that's behind the scenes that people aren't seeing. And so, yeah, I've had to re-engage that protective side because I've lived in a bubble for 10 years, a forever young bubble. So all my staff is vetted. All of my partners vetted. Our wives are vetted. Right. And I can't speak for him, but I have very, very, very few friends. And it's funny, but we do have friends around. It's like my buddies from high school, right? Or my guy from freshman year of college, right? I really don't have that many friends at all, maybe like a few. Yeah. And so, yeah, always on guard because you got a lot to lose and people are not happy for you most of the time because they're in that comment section. They want to be in the comment section and they want to pull you back into the comment section. That's right. And yeah, so always, and that's a really sad way to live, And I tell my wife that all the time because I'm actually an extroverted person. I'm friendly. I've always been friendly. I like people. I like to talk to people, like to be around people. And I never would have looked or thought that I would have to look at people as like a danger. Right. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, constantly. So can't be in certain places. If you display certain traits, if you have a complete lack of integrity, if you have no moral compass whatsoever, people who don't believe in anything, and I don't, you don't have to be a Christian, but you don't believe in anything, that's dangerous to me, whether you're Muslim, you're a Jew, whatever, I need you to believe in something, right? Have some faith in something. Yeah. And if you don't, that's really scary to me, and so I try to stay away from things like that. I'm not a perfect person at all, but even in my, flaws, I got to protect myself from myself sometimes, Right. That too. That which is why I didn't want to move down here. Right. I understand. But you overcame it. it's a struggle, man. I mean, I'm 43 years old, but I like live.
Yeah.
I like story, I like going out. I like, but it doesn't really serve you well over time. And so it's a constant battle to like stay straight,
Right. So you just stay disciplined.
Try my best. Yes.
Yeah. I think you're doing a good job. It's when you talked about being obsessed, it's a good lesson I learned a few years ago was that it's okay to give yourself permission to be obsessed about something that's going to drive positive impact, add value to the world. And, when you go through that journey, you're going to have all the people like, you're going to get the hits like, hey, why are you so obsessed about that? You're good enough. Why you need to do this, why you need to do more. Like, what about your family? What about this? Like you hear
I have that person. Yeah. I have that person in my life. I won't say who they are, but I have that person in my life to this day. And they're like, they say exactly those things.
Yes.
And so one of the things about that is, I do think it's pretty screwed up. The guys, so the reason I tell people that, one, it's a fact that I'm on the lower end of what I could, at least financially successful, because there's guys that are ultra wealthy out here, ultra wealthy, ridiculously wealthy. I mean, especially in South Florida, I mean, it's not uncommon to be at a dinner where there's a billionaire.
Yes.
It's not uncommon. The thing about it is when you talk to these people and you see there's always a common theme. 9 times out of 10, you will never get there by not being obsessed, but for me, that's not my goal. Most of the time they don't get there with their families intact. Most of the time they don't get there with any, with their integrity intact. Most of those people have a lot of issues that they're dealing with, mental, emotional, psychological, whatever you want to call it. Not people that I would consider to be good people a lot of the time.
Or like, I think what you're defining, just because you have money doesn't make you successful in it by itself.
Right.
So when you think about success, which is, I think what you're alluding here, like what you view as truly being successful and accomplished.
I make less money, but I get to bring my family along with me.
Yeah.
Like my son and I are cool. My daughters and I are cool. I'm cool with my wife. We're not a perfect family. We do stuff together. We go places together. And those are the people that I really like to spend the majority of my time with. And I've had some recent successes, financially. And after them, I haven't, this is so recent that I didn't go to a dinner to celebrate. I didn't have a party.
Yeah.
I bought a stupid car. I have a car.
Okay. What'd you get?
I bought a Ghost.
Nice.
I bought a Rolls Royce Ghost.
Nice.
And I realized, I was like, there's nothing to buy. There's nothing to buy.
Yeah.
I don't need anything.
Right.
This watch, I get more comments on this watch than any other watch that I've seen my friends have, or the couple of nice watches that I have. This is a swatch. And this is the watch that people walk up to me and ask me about, right?
Right.
It's a swatch, And so I'm just saying that to say that I realize that anybody that thinks that those guys that think that having all the money in the world, that's like the thing. And first of all, they're compensating for something. Second of all, there's nothing to buy. There's really nothing to buy.
Yeah.
At that level. And so you're whatever you're doing it for, it usually just gets misguided. And if you're not using it for good, you have a lot of people out here, typically people who don't have means, they're like, well, you should do this. You should help this person. You should help that person. I'll tell you, as a person has some means and would like to have more, it doesn't do anything for you unless you're actually really helping out people along the way. And like the rap songs that, it's no fun if my homies can't have none.
Right.
It's not fun to have money and not help people and to just have it jewelry, all these stupid things that people want. It's not what it seems. And,
right.
And it's, that's not what I'm in it for, So that my success would be to know my family. My success would be to have a legacy, and my success would be able to actually truly help some people along the way, like some people help me.
Right. So Carlton, tell me a little bit about your involvement with Kids in Distress organization and also how that all came about.
Yeah. So I'm a board member with Kids in Distress, proudly for a few years now. I've been working with them for about 7 years now. And kids in distress is just really something that I'm very passionate about, because we wanted to have a give back component of what we're doing at Forever Young. Didn't know what. And I was introduced to this organization at my church one day, had no idea. And the CEO was like, hey, why don't you just come to our campus and check it out? And I was like, okay, whatever, because we were so used to in Boca, people asking us for money for all these charities all the time. And I actually had found out that some of the charities we were giving to, it was like people living off of the donations. There was a lot of people out here doing that.
Right.
And so I went down to the campus of Kids in Distress, and he took me around. And I was like, oh my God. And he was like, well, this is where our newborns are, our adoptive children are. These are kids whose parents are either like in, transit in prison or some kind of abusive situation. And these other kids are coming here for after school, and show me all these things. And I was like, whoa. Yeah. I was like, this is pretty wild. And so I told him, I was like, dude, I was adopted, man. I was born into foster care. And, I was adopted by, my parents, and they're wonderful people and raised me. But that was that's a very impactful thing in my life, and something that is very near and dear to me and part of my story. And I was like, you know what? Like any opportunities to work with you guys, I'd be glad to. And so I had some opportunities to work with him, and I just got to really love it. And I love the leader. And the reason I love the leader is because he was a stand-up guy who was working alongside of his staff and the people there that were helping the kids. Mm-hmm. And I truly fell in love with it after COVID hit, because he organized this food drive in Broward County every Monday morning. And we would wake up every single Monday morning and give away like hundreds and tons of food to people driving up from all over Dade and Broward, lines wrapped around the street. And here you go, you have the CEO of this company out there every morning doing this and actually doing the real work. Not out there. It's not about the money. He was actually doing the real work. And we got to know each other really well throughout this time. And so every Monday I would come and help. And it would help me as well, because it would help me to help these people, because again, I was living in a bubble. Right. And to stay grounded and you're giving food to people who are humbly in need, man. Yeah. Pulling up with their kids in the car, like they don't have any food. Right. And so the organization is just near and dear to me. I think that my personal belief is that I don't think that I would be able to attain any level of success or the success that I've had now if this wasn't a component of my life. I truly feel as though it's a test to see what you're about and to see if you're worthy of being allowed to move further and to ascend into anything else. That's my personal belief. And I've seen it time and time again that it goes back again to what we talked about not giving up. It's not about, oh, I gave $100 to Boys and Girls Club or to, Salvation Army. Right. That's not what it's about. It's you give your time. That's the most valuable thing we have. Right. And then, oh, I volunteered this one time for Habitat for Humanity. It was cool. Like you see a lot of people in corporate do that all the time. Like, oh, I'm at the volunteer thing or whatever. No. How many times, how often, how inconveniencing is this to you? Right. Right. And is this truly a give or what are you doing it for? What's your intention? And so I feel like these are all tests. I truly do. And I feel like it's all intertwined into what makes us who we are, our character. And I don't feel like I would be allowed to be blessed with what I have without giving a sacrifice of my time and over a long period of time to show that, it's genuine, it's real, and that, you're going to be a good steward of what's being given to you, And so that's where Kids in Distress came from. I try not to get involved with too many organizations because then you can't give them time. Yeah. So spread yourself too thin. Right. So I work with them. I work with Boys and Girls Club, and I work with another organization. I'm on the board for Suits for Seniors, which is a prep program for high school students where we give them a brand new suit and teach them job interview skills and entrance skills for college and give them scholarships along with this program. So when they graduate, they get a brand new fitted suit. They get diploma, they get the training, and these kids are like, they're really advanced. And these are people who are in schools a lot of time where they're not getting this kind of attention. And so those are the three organizations. I don't like to see people give money to dogs and cats, organizations like that. Like, there's kids out here 2 blocks over that need your help.
Right.
I'm sorry. I think they're more important. And so I tell my franchisees that too. I'm like, I don't want to see you working in the Save the Kittens organization, right? The kids are the most valuable and impactful assistance that we can give, in my opinion. So,
man, you're inspiring me. I got to do more. It's awesome. And, you think about how you developed yourself as a person and as a human, and that you have the capability of adding more value and also develop yourself financially. So you have the ability to leave your business and volunteer this time and exit, some of the roles of the business. This is why, being obsessed, you're helping more people, but than you could have ever imagined by being obsessed and focused on that one thing. It's just amazing.
Knock on wood. But I always want to tell people, I think it's not right to paint this picture of what is now versus what it was before.
Yeah.
You're talking to someone who used to be a delinquent who
right.
didn't have a conscience until maybe 26 years old, who did things that, wasn't, like, I wasn't always like this. It took me like being punished by myself and going into a rock bottom places, both financially and morally. And I'm still not perfect today, but to hit those bottoms, to say, hey man, what you're doing is not working. It's not the right way to do things. And it's never going to work for you if you don't change them, and a hard-headed person like me took a lot of lumps to figure that out,
But here you are.
Thank God.
If I'm not mistaken, you're a member of a leadership program, right? In Broward County, is that correct?
Well, I just started that program, Leadership Broward.
You started it?
Just started.
Oh, tell me about that.
So I tried to get into it 2 years now, but it's really a service organization in Broward County. Palm Beach has one too. Mm-hmm. I know some other municipalities have it, but it brings people together that want to get more acclimated with like civics and nonprofits, charities, and that type of work. And I get scared when I get too far away from people.
Okay.
In terms of, like, for example, living in Boca Raton, when I was really head down in my business, when living in Boca Raton, I realized that I wasn't leaving Boca Raton.
Okay.
And I realized that my mind wasn't leaving Boca Raton either, and my consideration wasn't either.
Okay.
Meaning I was living in a bubble, and in Boca Raton, every day is a nice day.
Yes, right.
No problems. You go to the stoplight, Lamborghini, Rolls Royce, Ferrari, all of these are at the same light, and you're passing. You have one of those cars out here, it doesn't matter. Nobody cares.
Right.
And I realized, I was like, man, you're living in a bubble. This is not real. Mm-hmm. The majority of people are not living like this. And I think it's kind of obscene, to forget about people like that and to think that no one else has problems or issues. And so that's part of the reason I like to be in volunteer situations. I like to be in community activities, because it allows me to stay grounded and work with people and to never let my guard down and think that, oh, well, you're doing great now. You made it, because things can be taken away from you. And I think it's a really poor mindset to have. So I joined this organization because I wanted to learn.
That's awesome.
About something that's different than the world of beauty and wellness and everybody looking good. And, that can mess you up, man.
For sure. Yeah. It's, it's not about having things in life. It's about being a particular person. And most people put the having before the being a person.
Right.
And you've got to become that person. When you reflect back in your journey, what's one of the worst pieces of advice someone gave you in your life? When you think about over the past several years, that you're like, boy, this is something you would never want to listen to, but other people might listen to it.
Great question. I think this is a dangerous one, because some people may need this and some people may not. I think that one of the most dangerous pieces of advice given to people is the system, the conveyor belt factory system of school.
Yeah.
And that you must go to school, you must get good grades. If you don't get good grades, you will not be successful, you will be a failure, blah, blah, blah. That is a really dangerous, and that really burns a lot of people, or puts out a lot of people's fire, and it's not true. Aside from you finishing school, the direction in which you go doesn't need to be dictated by algebra and trigonometry and all these things that we don't use. Most of the successful people I know don't use any of that stuff at all.
Right.
And if you need somebody that knows it, you hire them. Right. And so a lot of people's dreams and passions are killed by that. And then even then going into college, it's debated a lot now, but it's the truth. A lot of people don't need to necessarily go to college. They need to have some kind of social interactions with people and growth. But man, if I had gone to trade school, with a couple of business classes added to it and been like the best plumber in the world, oh my God. I mean, talk about getting paid, talk about being rich,
right?
That would be a better path for a lot of people. And there's so many different paths that people can make it in. And so I think a lot of people's lights are put out by not allowing them to kind of chase that thing, fail at acting, fail at music, fail at, whatever it is for a little bit.
Yes.
And the way we just put the school thing on top of people all the time. I think that was a piece of bad advice. That's the first thing that comes to my head right now. I'm sure there's plenty of other ones,
right.
But that one really kind of comes to my head right now.
Worst advice I've been given, one of the most dangerous pieces of advice is take it easy.
Oh my God. Wow. I'm surprised I didn't think of that. That's a great one. That's one of the greatest
ones. When I
hear
that, I know I'll say like, hey, with all due respect, that when people tell me that, I'm going to ignore you. Because I take care of myself physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And I'm like a machine when I'm on my mission, and I don't need to take it easy. Like no one's going to stop me. I'm so energized. I work 16 hours, 7 days, but I'm loving what I'm doing. I don't even know if I'm working or playing it half the time, but I'm on a mission to change people's lives. It's like, would someone tell Jesus to take it easy?
Wow. I'm going to use that because that's actually should be top of mind for people. That's the scariest thing that I do hear people, when people tell me that, I got to get away from them.
Yeah.
The people that have told me that, I really put far away from me. I've had some good friends for a long time who tell me that. And when they tell me that, it gets under my skin, and it's scary to me because you're trying to put out my fire.
Right.
You're trying to get me to join that crowd.
Well, right. What happens is you're threatening their level of comfort right now when they're telling you that, and they've got to kind of bring you back to them because you're making them feel uncomfortable because you're reminding them of how they're not chasing their full potential, or they maybe don't have purpose in life.
Yes.
Right.
Even close. I've had a couple close family members tell me that, and out of respect, I have not said anything.
Yeah.
But that's probably one of the worst that you just brought up.
Yeah. If I have a family member, what I'll do is I'll put the appropriate amount of distance where it's now healthy, and also put the boundaries up where they'll kind of get a feel for that. Because you can't choose your family members, right? So you just put that right distance with them. And friends, I've had to, move on from friendships that don't want to grow, or hey, like they want to sit in their comfort zone and get comfortable. And like, I don't like living in my comfort zone because there's no growth there. I want to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm experiencing that right now. And even again, I'm not perfect in my habits or whatnot, but even with like things like just excess and alcohol and stuff like that, it's like, I have to put boundaries on a lot of that stuff around me, because maybe I would love to have drinks with you on a Tuesday night.
Right.
I'd love to do that, but
sure.
Wednesday morning now is done.
Yes.
And so is maybe in the next 2 days.
Yeah.
And so that's the type of stuff, first and foremost. It's like, if I see that, I just can't do it.
Yeah. And it's selfish. Too many people depending on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the proactive approach to health with Forever Young versus being reactive, because I think this is important for the listeners to hear about how, you don't need to wait till something's wrong with your health, but you could be more proactive about it.
Yeah. Great point. And that's really what this is all about. I think we can all do better. I could even in the environment, first and foremost, I want to say I could even do better about this, but I'm glad I feel blessed. I don't think I'd even be, I'm going to be serious. I don't think I'd be alive today if I wasn't working at Forever Young. Because as men, especially as we're going into our 40s, you know, the little things that you think were cool and okay for you to do in your 20s, those things are taking a toll. Life is happening. And most of us are advised to go to a doctor once a year. I would want to guess that less than 50% of people even do that.
Right.
Women are better about that typically than men. And so what happens is every few years or whatnot, your body is like it's like a Ferrari or anything else. You got to hook it up to the diagnostic, keep it tuned up. And so what we're seeing is that there's two paths in healthcare today. There is the sick care system that almost everyone's in that are, I don't know about your parents, but my parents are, and all my aunts and my uncles and almost everybody that we know is in that. And that is the path where you go into the house and on the table, there are 15 different orange bottles that people are taking. And then it's leading to your constipation. And then that's leading to toxicity. And then it's leading to exhaustion and fatigue, which makes you not go to the gym, which makes you then more prone to eat certain foods that make you feel good. And then you're in the cycle. And now
you're stuck.
That system is very profitable, extremely profitable, depending on where you're positioned in it. But at the same time now, that system's also burning out itself, and it's burning out the participants in it. If you go to any doctor, any hospital, anywhere, everyone from the doctor to the person checking you in is depressed or sad.
The pharmacists can't even keep up in CVS. They're like want to go on strike because they can't keep up writing prescriptions.
Great point. Go into any, I would love to take a bet. Excellent point. Go into any of these places and go look at the pharmacist and look at how they treat you.
Yeah.
Look at that guy. His head is down. His eyes are down. He's sad. They don't work out. Their life, that is sick care. The whole system. I had a treatment this morning. Doctor came in, cardiologist, and he was like, yeah, he's like, I used to work out. He's like, but whatever. He's like, I used to be strong. And I'm like, you're a cardiologist, man. He's like your age, man, but you guys look totally different. And then he like tapped me and he was like, you used to be strong too. And nurse was like, no. Like, we're still strong. Like I'm still strong, because he looked like he looked defeated. Yeah. And I know he's treating like 20 patients that day, back to back for an insurance check that's probably not worth his time. Versus back to Forever Young, we're just promoting and advocates for preventative care and wellness, which means that getting older doesn't mean that you have to get diabetes like your mom or your aunt. Doesn't mean that you have to be tired and sit on the couch for the rest of your life like the family that you knew. We have 75-year-olds that are coming in like, I need my Viagra prescription. That's wellness. They're either married, got a girlfriend, or dating. Right. It's a different way because we're treating people like high performance vehicles that are well maintained with diagnostics and fine tuning. And so we're doing blood work at least 4 times a year. Who's doing that in the United States? Hardly anybody, except for people like, I'm going to assume you do these type of things, right? Yes. I can tell, I can look at you. And if we're out in public, we can tell other guys and other females that are into it too, because there's that alternative lane that people are going to. And it's usually because they've gotten some kind of education or exposure to it. And it's quiet. Yes. And it's like a VIP club.
Yeah, for me, it was word of mouth and okay, this is working. And all of a sudden you start getting involved.
Right. Because you don't want to let go. And it's because wellness is a quality of life. Wellness means that I'm well and that I can actually function at every stage of my life. And if I catch something along the way and I prevent it or treat it and control it, then I actually get to extend my life too.
Yes.
It's not quack medicine. It's literally science itself. And attacking, different biological factors for the best possible life you can. And so people who want to do better in their careers and want to do better in sports and every other area of your life tend to gravitate towards this.
Yes.
And so now we have these 2 separate types of people in society that look totally different, that have different values. And the people that come to Forever Young are that group of people. And that group of people is growing, which is why you're seeing growth in the space in general, is people don't want to give it up. And at the very same time, it's back to the question that you asked in terms of why don't people want you to know that you can be accountable for your own, is because when you start taking control of your health, you're not a 50-year-old, guy who's like, okay, they just voted that I can't do this thing anymore, or I don't have these rights anymore, and I'm not going to say anything. Now you're like, no, I'm going to say something. Now I'm capable.
Right.
And I truly believe that capable people are frowned upon.
Yes.
Especially in the United States right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love what you're doing at Forever Young. For me, I'm 49. I'll be 50 in a couple months. I'm in the best shape of my life. And it's because I'm taking control of it and not being a victim.
That's awesome.
Right. And you're in incredible shape. You're a few years
you're in better shape than me, dude.
I don't know about that. Yeah. So it's just amazing. So, and for me, it's about the energy and having an energy to like attack every day, be there for my children, and extend my life. So I'm there for my children and my grandchildren longer, as much as I can, because for me now it's about longevity and just having that energy and driving the most impact while I can while I'm on this planet.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's the people like you. I mean, I don't know how we categorize them, but people like for instance, this Whoop, I think you've probably heard of the Whoop before.
Yes. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, this is like a calling card when I'm out in public. Anywhere I go, if you're in line at the coffee shop or you're at the airport or whatever, you see someone with a Whoop and they're talking a different language. Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, they're into all these things that we're talking about right now. And you're seeing, it's like a little mini revolution, but the sad part about it is that that revolution is being attacked.
Yes.
And you see it all the time. We just recently lost some peptides in our industry. The peptides or wellness compounds that are helping people with the things that we're talking about get mysteriously removed. Big pharma.
You're threatening them.
Yeah.
That's why.
And we've seen that along the way. We've lost other compounds. We've lost HCG. We've lost, they tried to take, they were targeting vitamin C, injectable vitamin C. This is vitamin C. They want to remove it, saying that it's not safe for you to consume. That's really scary stuff, man.
So if you're an adult and you want to, all right, well, I want to pivot and start taking more of a proactive approach to my health, what's the first step that somebody should take?
I think we just talked about it. The first step is if I'm going to assume that a person that wants to do that typically is at a place in their life where they're maybe a little disappointed with where they are. Okay. Because that's typically when we start to pay attention. And so the first step to do that is to say, I've gotten myself here. Right. Maybe it's because I didn't take the time to educate myself or whatever, but I'm here. Acknowledge. I've gotten myself here. Yes. Yes. But I just met this guy, and if he can do it, I can do it too. Let me submit myself to a process and go find out about what this is. So I think the first step is accountability. Yes. The second step is to go get consultation somewhere. And I never tell people they have to come to Forever Young. I tell people, go somewhere. Just go somewhere where someone is speaking this language and where someone says, let's figure out what's going on with you. And typically after they're consulting with you, that next step is going to be blood work. And the cool thing in the wellness industry is that the blood work is much more comprehensive. Yeah. Full panel. Yeah. So we're talking about like 12 pages of information on what's going on inside your body. Yeah. Your primary care doctor will never run that on you. No. So once you have the data. And by the way, your primary care doctor is typically going to be unhealthy. So how are you going to take advice from somebody who can't even lead their own health? And they're going to tell you what to do to be healthy. Like they're not qualified just by that premise. Would you ever take advice from anybody in like business who is failing at their business, but going to tell you how to run your business? Same concept. Well, I only take my tax advice from CPAs, my legal advice from lawyers, and so on. You just hit it on the head, man. So yeah, I mean, you've accepted accountability. You've gone to seek out the information. Now you're submitting to a process, and that you brought up the best point. And we bring this up to any person interested in franchising with Forever Young is the thing that sets us apart is you don't go into a Forever Young and see the doctor smoking cigarettes and eating McDonald's in the back before he comes to treat you. This is real. You know, you don't see that, and we don't want it, and we don't want people working in our centers or whether even at their front desk that are doing these things throughout the whole process. We want people to be authentic,
credible,
exactly. And so yeah, now you have the process, and then the next thing is the consistency after that. So you've gone through all the steps. Now you have the tools, because if you got a consultation, you've probably been given some tools. Now use the tools. Repeat consistently, go back and consult again. Yeah. And this is something you do for the rest of your life. And the thing about it is no one's going to have to sell this to you. We've never sold a thing at Forever Young. It's education.
Yeah.
And all I need you to do is just stick with this for 90 days. And once you see the difference, I don't have to sell you at all.
Right.
You know the difference. You know, I mean, you know that your sex life is better.
Yeah.
You know that you're stronger. You know that you're more attractive. You know that every single function in your body is better.
Yeah, and you think about that. People let themselves go and they're in a marriage, and like think about how selfish that is, where you're committed and that like while you're stuck with each other. So and then you're miserable because you don't have any passion anymore. But when you're taking care of yourself, like there's something to be said about that. That's really impactful about how you could be in your 50s and your 60s and still have an exciting relationship with your partner because you're both taking care of yourself. I mean, that's a big deal for me and my wife because we're on that journey. And, you know, it's just as exciting today as it was when we first got married.
A lot of people listening to you, though, don't believe you.
Yeah.
Well, they don't believe you.
You have to, because they have to see it to believe it. Like people won't believe anything they don't see or experience themselves.
Yeah. It's, and I also noticed that people attack people saying what you're saying sometimes too. Mm-hmm. They think that there's a lack of substance in what you're saying or that it's superficial or whatever. But I think also all those comments are back again to what we said, like people don't want to see this, right? They don't want to see you defying odds. They don't want to see, because it doesn't make them feel good.
Right.
You know, and what you're saying is absolutely right. You know, I wish my wife was sitting here right now. I'd introduce her, and our standards are very high, and it comes from, I have a respect. I don't want to, I have to have self-respect first. And in order for my wife to respect me as well.
Right.
And vice versa. I put a lot of pressure on my wife, mm-hmm. and I expect the same pressure. And I'm not telling her to do things that I'm not willing to do, but we're both kind of in this race, like you just said, you know, we want to see how far we can take this thing, you know?
Yeah.
And our kids are watching.
Yes. You're setting an example for them of what's possible.
Yeah. It's the best thing we can do to set them up as well. And so,
I have 3 daughters, and I know that they're watching everything I do with my wife, and they're going to model probably the man they look for after my behavior and my interaction with her.
Imagine some sloppy guy coming in the house, and then you're like coming to shake the guy's hand. It's like, my God, you know, like, and that's the crazy thing. I mean, you look younger than a lot of 20-year-olds right now, and it's a shame.
Yeah.
I go to pool parties sometimes in Miami, man. And when I'm actually like super consistent, it is insane. Because prior, if you remember old Florida, you didn't go on South Beach unless you were like fit and in shape.
Okay, like, now there's you just go.
And me and my 40, 50, and 60, I got a 60-year-old friend that brought a pool party, jacked. They're the best looking people at the pool party. These sloppy 20-year-olds are running around, and they're no shame at all. And that's fine if you want to call that superficial, but I know what's not fine is that after 30, that they're not just running around sloppy. Now they're like type 2, you know, or trending to type 2 diabetes or whatever, or, you know, gonna have to have their gallbladders or whatever. It catches up with you. So it's not just about the exterior, but it's just amazing. And we find this everywhere we go. And then we go to a resort or we go on vacation, and it's the guy with the whoop or the fit guy from across the pool. And it's like, you know, you guys relate, and then everyone else at the pool that's coming from like middle, you know, like, you know, from like places where these things are not as well known. Right. You're seeing like middle America and all these people, and you're like, you're the outlier. Right. You're uncommon. Yeah. You stand out, and everybody else is just sitting there like with their hands on their stomachs at the place, and just it's insane, you know. And it's like, but no one's going to listen to you. So you just kind of just keep doing what you're doing.
We just got to set the example and and then be transparent, come on shows like this, talk about it, what's possible.
Yeah.
And if we can influence one person at a time.
Right.
And that's how that works.
Yeah. I said the new thing as I go forward, and actually do more presentations on stuff like this is I'm just going to come out and tell people, prove me wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell people when I speak to them, I don't believe you'll ever do it. I'll give you the information, but you're not going to do it. And because I feel like if I tell you that, there's only two kinds of people anyway, typically. I'm creating two buckets at least.
Yeah.
And the bucket of the people who are not going to take accountability are going to be fine with that.
Right.
And they're going to think I'm an ass too for saying it. But the people who aren't okay with that and it sparks something in them, they're going to be like, screw you. Watch.
Yeah.
Like you got to have that in you. And so I feel like that's the only way I can really impact people now is just tell them like, hey, look, here's information, but you're not going to do it. Prove me wrong. I want people to prove me wrong.
I love it. Dude, you're fucking awesome.
Nah, we're just telling you the story, man.
It's awesome. Hey, I appreciate you coming on the show so much today.
Thanks for having me, man. We got to work together. We got to get you at Forever Young, man.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. Hey,
no, we need to get you involved with Forever Young.
Yeah,
man.
let's go. I'm ready, man. I'm always looking for new things. However, if I could ever help you in any way, just let me know. And we're local. We got to go out to dinner with the wives.
No, let's do it. It's rare to meet, good people around, especially in South Florida.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize that South Florida is a different animal. But yeah, likewise, we're literally across the street and, I know you guys got the 10X Health, right?
Yeah. That's right.
But yeah, actually Grant did a cameo for us before you guys started. I wanted to post one day because he's like, you got to go check out Forever Young.
Nice.
But yeah, man, I love 10X. I love the mindset.
Yes.
Of 10X. That is the book is on my shelf behind me in my desk. And that was one of the books and one of the mindsets that really helped me as we were getting off the ground was that and the 4-hour work week. Yeah.
Well, you're totally 10X.
There's only one way.
That's awesome, man. Hey, so how do our listeners, connect with you?
I use Instagram as my business card.
Okay.
So I'm super active on Instagram. It's Carlton, CARLTON _Washington. And on Instagram or _ Carlton _ Washington on Instagram and, Facebook and LinkedIn as well, Great. But mostly Instagram. And, as far as Forever Young goes, it's 4 with the number 4, foreveryoung.com.
Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
That's all for today's Steve Lagg's Unfiltered Journey. Keep soaring, leading, and conquering with us. Remember, it's not just about listening. It's about learning and taking action. If today ignited your drive, join us next time for more unfiltered wisdom. Subscribe, rate, and leave a review to fuel your success journey. Also, be sure to listen to us on your favorite podcast channel or outlet. Stay tuned, stay unfiltered, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Boom.